Chris Popper. I'm joined by Dr. Marc, the Superintendent of AOS91, and we're talking about the item that causes the most controversy. It's not the school menu, it's not the budget, it's snowing. Is there going to be school today?
Or wind.
Or exactly. So I know that there are kids that go to bed with their pajamas on backwards. I know that there are teachers that go to bed with their pajamas on backwards, hoping that there's no school on the next day. I have kids that message me saying, do you think we're going to have school? So this is the horse's mouth, not to say that you're a horse, but how do you determine whether or not school's going to be in session when there is a forecast for snow?
Well, you know, it's a coin flip. No.
Oh, it's like grading. Okay.
No, actually, it is a very involved process, and I have to tell you, in the 34 years I've been in this business, Mount Desert and the region presents the most challenging geography and situations to make a decision about school.
Because you don't just say, all right, well, Northeast Harbor's not going to have school and Trenton's going to have school.
It's unique in its geography, but it is, you know, the islands, the unbridged islands, also present a different challenge. So essentially what I'll describe to you is probably not unique to most public school systems, but it's really not a coin flip. It's really a very involved process. It really begins usually 24 to 48 hours in advance of weather. Certainly, like everybody else, you look at the weather reports. You know, in today's day and age with the complex systems that we have and the multitude, they're pretty accurate.
Yeah.
They're very accurate. So we use a combination of the following. The National Weather Service, which is up in Caribou. We get bulletins from them and we have feeds from them. Certainly local meteorology reports. But the boots on the ground are really where the rubber meets the road. Your public works, the people that are out plowing roads, public safety people on the roads, that's really, you know, where you get a ton of good information. Superintendents do talk to each other. They do communicate. So, it's not to say that one does what the other is doing, but it is good to know that there's some continuity in decisions. So typically, in most situations, it begins around 3:45 in the morning.
So you set your alarm and you're up.
Yeah, I'm up and looking at the forecast, and you know, the goal is always having school, obviously.
Right.
But we're never going to go, when in doubt, and this has always been my mantra, when in doubt, you pull the plug. If I'm on the fence about something, I'm going to err on the side of caution and not have kids or staff in harm's way. God forbid there's an accident and somebody's hurt or you know, there's a tragedy unfolds. You can't
undo that.
You can't undo that. And if it's a situation where we can avoid something like that, yeah, I recognize that it's an inconvenience for some folks with childcare and appointments, and I'm sensitive to that. But you put it in context. So superintendents chat. They don't always agree depending upon the geography. 2 storms ago, I think every school in the state of Maine canceled.
Yeah.
That was a no-brainer. You know, the last one last week, we came to school. The weather forecast was, to use a term, exploding. And I was really worried about kids being on the road, so we made the decision to release early.
Which is unusual.
It is. And then, you know, I had some folks that, some said, thank you for keeping our kids safe. Others said, hey, what are you doing? It's sunny over here.
Right.
So the forecast changed. But again, I'll go back and say, I'm sensitive to that, but when I make the decision, we're going to err on the side of keeping people safe. So, you know, it starts early in the morning, but one of the things I do, it's a little bit more challenging now, but in my former district, I would actually get in the car and drive around and check the roads myself. But more importantly, it's sidewalks I worry about for kids walking and pedestrian traffic, which is really more specific to Bar Harbor. But that's a piece, so we'll look at that, because kids that aren't taking the bus or traveling by car, you know, they're at risk, so walking. Another unique piece is wind and ice, you know, and so we take a look at that, and at the end of the day, it's my decision to make locally, and when we make that, rarely does it, you know, one school doing it. We make that decision as a district. So when I make the decision, I send out a communication, an electronic communication. It goes via text message for folks that are into the system. Yeah. And email. So that sends out, the lion's share of people, they get their information that way.
I know Ian Braun then posts it on Facebook.
Actually, Matt does.
Or does Matt do it?
Matt does, the high school principal, and there's a backup that if for some reason I don't have communication or whatever, Matt is able to do that. And Matt will post it to the media, television media, and the website. So that goes out. There's very little in the way of phone calls. In the old days, you had a phone tree. Right. With electronics, we don't do that. So, and then, you know, we communicate that to other schools. The one unique thing I think that happens, sometimes these storms come, they blow through, and then, you know, the sun comes out, so what do you do with that? There is the ability, if you cancel school, to have after-school activities or events. That's happened in some instances. Tonight's an interesting situation. We're in school right now. We're going to finish school, but this storm is upon us, so what do? We've canceled all after-school activities and events for this evening. Okay. And so, you know, the goal is to try to get people in school, get them to and from school safely, but if we have any questions about other things, we make that decision. And you know, I have a backup. If for some reason I'm not available, there's another administrator able to make that call.
I mean, there was a case, I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago, where there were so many snow days, they ended up they came to school here on Saturdays.
Yeah, there's a provision actually in the law to do that. You know, and we want to be conscious of how we end the school year. Right now, we're tracking fairly well. We've had two storm days, and so, you know, we're within that window. But boy, oh boy, we've got a lot of weather. February and March can be challenging. I will share too, Chris, for parents. We send a letter home to all parents and guardians, and it talks about the protocols that we use. It talks about if we're going to have a delay or a dismissal, what times those are. This is also posted to our website. But anytime a parent or citizen has a question or a concern about that, I would welcome that feedback. But I want people to know we are sensitive to the implications for families when we make those decisions for childcare, for work, all those pieces. I don't take those lightly, but I also want people to know that I don't have a second chance to get that right, so I'm always going to err on the side of caution.
Well, and the other thing too is, and I say this without checking with you, but if a parent feels that the roads are unsafe, they can always keep the child home and for a excused absence.
Excellent point. Let's assume that I make the decision to go and that parent or guardian isn't comfortable. 100%. That is their call and their decision, and that absolutely is excused. So yeah, you're correct on that, and the document actually says that. Okay. So
I didn't read that.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. It basically says not everybody agrees with storm decisions, but parents have the ultimate decision. And if we hold school and they're concerned, we want parents to keep their children home if they're not comfortable.
All right. Perfect. Thanks for explaining that.
Thank you.
Remember, if you want to make sure that there's no school, wear your pajamas backwards. It works about 80% of the time. All right. Thanks for checking out this video and all the other videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel.